going on, everybody? Hello again and welcome back to another episode of The Welch Report with me, Jean-Luc Welch. Make some noise, clap it up, get excited wherever you are. Tell a friend, tell anybody that you know that we're here. We are active on the airways. Well, not live, but you get what I'm saying. We're here. The podcast is here with another episode. And I'm so happy for you for joining me today to talk about everything in the world of sports. Sorry for the long hiatus. I've been working on stuff like I've been saying for the past couple months behind the scenes, trying to get an additive to what this show already is. Oh yes, we are getting notarized, and I'm about to step into a new realm. Oh yeah, this show ain't going nowhere, but when I tell you what's going on, when I reveal it fully, it's going to be exciting. Trust and believe. So stay tuned for that. But again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And let's shoot. We ain't got time to waste. To be perfectly honest, this hiatus, I ain't about to keep y'all waiting. Because what the world is going on in the NBA? That's right. This is an NBA episode, and we have to talk about all the trades that transpired right before the draft. Because my word, you want to talk about an absolute, literally, an explosion of just moves throughout the NBA. It caught me off guard, and I was taken aback. I was struggling to keep up with what the world actively, every team was trying to do, and it was mind-blowing. The NBA landscape had shifted, and we're going to talk about, for the biggest players, what did they make the right move? Did they make the wrong move? And how they put themselves in contention to potentially improve next season, or was it a mistake for some teams? But like we said before, the draft happened. All this happened before the draft, so quickly we'll cover some stuff with the draft. As we all know, Victor Wembenyama has finally gotten picked, and he's officially in the NBA. Out of France, here in the United States, forget here in the United States, here just in the best basketball league in the world, at 7'5" with guard-like skills like we've never seen in terms of that combination. What do I think is going to happen with him, or how good is he actually going to be? Well, let's break it down, shall we? At 7'5", he's amongst the heights of Bo, Yao Ming, and other great giants, Mark Eaton, Rick Schmitz, at that height, who's, again, literally towering over the rest of the competition in the NBA. However, the one thing with him is the fact that he is agile. He's actually mobile. He is a brother that can actually move, and not just move, he is slick with not just ball handling, but just overall body coordination. Something that I have never seen at that size in a player. Again, the closest thing to that is somebody like Yao Ming. Okay, you could say Bo in NBA right now. He's with 7'3". We're talking about eclipsing 7'4" and plus. We've normally, people who are that tall are, robotic in nature. They're plotting. They don't have a whole lot of agility. They don't have a whole lot of speed to them. They can't change pace really quickly. They're more so, when I get to my spot, it's going to be a task to get there. And then when I do get there, you ain't moving me from my spot. And most likely I'm not moving from my spot either, because they're not really all that agile. Victor Wembanyama is a brother who has phenomenal guard skills. Ball handling is, this is something that I thought I'd never see. The closest thing I saw to a big guy with ball handles that well was somebody like Kevin Durant at 6'9", most likely 6'10". Some people say he's even 7 feet tall, regardless of which, that's probably the best, dribbling big man, especially with a long wingspan that I can remember seeing. However, now, yes, we know Shaq could take the ball up the floor. Yes, we know he trained as a point guard, but even still, as a bigger man, we hadn't seen somebody that could handle the rock like a KD, to a very lesser degree, like a Giannis Antetokounmpo. And even with how good Jokic is with controlling the rock, ball handling, we're talking about tween cross dribbles, behind the backs, all that stuff. Jokic is a phenomenal ball handler, just not to that level, even though he's arguably the best player in the world right now, especially after winning a championship. Congratulations to the Nuggets, by the way, and solidifying himself as eclipsing Giannis for the best player in the league. Whether you want to have that argument or not, that's a whole nother show for that metric. But either way, we've seen big guys be able to handle the rock, yes, but not to the level that Victor has. As well as the ability to pull up, as well as the speed, as well as the body coordination, and the ability to handle himself while in the air and be able to post up and be able to drive from the perimeter to the lane, as well as being a great rim protector. This cat has everything we hope for in a legitimate unicorn of a player. Yes, that title was previously for Kristaps Porzingis. We're definitely going to talk about him. But Victor brings something different to the table. He has when we say guard-like skills, we mean guard-like skills in every aspect of the game. Except for passing. He's not really that great of a passer. But outside of that, in terms of being able to change direction quickly, in terms of being able to have great ball handling skills, legitimate dribbling skills, and the willingness to shoot from the three-point line and the fluidity at which his shot actually is, it's something that we've never seen in that combination. Again, closest thing to that at that size that Victor Wembanyama is Yao Ming, who was, I believe, a 10-time All-Star, up until injuries took him out. Or multiple-time All-Star before injuries took him out. Was one of the best centers in the NBA. He had body control, footwork. Again, it's not to this level, but still, he was the player who, hey, this cat isn't just a brick wall and nothing more. He actually has post moves. He actually is quicker on his feet at that size than maybe we've ever seen in the NBA. He has a turnaround game. He could hit the three from time to time, but he could spread the floor to an extent within the 2-point range and could dominate in the post with his, again, overall size, but also his body coordination to actually be able to make the moves necessary to get behind his defender or fake out his defender. That's what made him so great. And injuries, of course, messed up his career. Doesn't take away from what he was as a player. Victor Wembanyama can eclipse that with his even more exorbitant talent, at least from what we can see from a visual standpoint. The only thing that is a concern is really his weight and injuries. Because people at that size, injuries can take the career out from under you right like that, quick as a hiccup. However, if he's able to stay healthy, the only real knock is, hey, can he be a brother that can take the hits of an NBA season, especially from people that are 250, 260, throughout the NBA. Mind you, when he played on the was it French 92? I forget the name of the team. When he played on the team in France and also had some stints where he played against the G League Ignite team, like against Scoot Henderson, or people like Kenny Lofton, specifically Kenny Lofton, who's 6'6", 280, or 6'6", 270. He did get bullied in the paint from somebody who's very much undersized. It did happen often every time Lofton got the ball. So it's a legitimate concern of, okay, not necessarily is it going to hinder your production, but in terms of being able to stop other cats, yes, your height's going to definitely be a factor, but if you get somebody that's relatively close to your height, but also is strong legitimately, how are you going to be able to handle that? Not saying you're going to fold, but is it going to be a point of concern that teams will have to accommodate for when they're building around Victor Wembanyama, specifically the Spurs? Will they have to accommodate for him not necessarily being able to outstrength people and that being a legitimate gripe against him as a player, and that actually boding true and making it so that, okay, now the Spurs have to get some players to hide the fact that Victor can get out-bullied inside the post by bigger opponents. Would that be a factor? Would that not be? We'll have to wait to see. But either way, as a prospect, he's one of the biggest that we've ever seen. I think LeBron was bigger as a prospect and as a talent coming into the league, but Victor Wembanyama is probably the second or third most talented person that we've seen come into the NBA today. And because of that, we don't need we hold him to standards, but don't blow it out of proportion. That's all. Don't be saying stuff like if he isn't KD, Hakeem, or Shaq, he's a bust. No, that's ridiculous. That's stupid. Some analyst said that, and whoever said that was absolutely idiotic for saying that. That is absolutely That's an abysmal form of thinking for somebody in the world of sports, especially somebody who's trying to create how the world is going to view Victor as a player and what metric we're going to use to gauge his career. That's horrible. Don't think like that at all. Victor Wembenyama, we hope is an all-star. We hope at the end of his career can be a Hall of Famer, and we hope lives up to everything that he can be. But even if he's half of what we tout him to be coming into the NBA, that's still good. That's still great. That's still phenomenal. Don't be setting unrealistic expectations for him. Please don't. Don't be that type of guy. Don't be that type of girl. Don't be that type of fan in NBA circles. Please don't. My goodness. Because then you're going to set yourself up to fail, and then you're going to make him feel like an outcast all because he didn't reach the heights of, the greatest players in NBA history. That is, no. Don't hold him to that standard. Let him reach that standard. And then once he gets to that stratosphere, then start critiquing him as such. But don't hold him to that coming right out the league. That's idiotic. But now let's jump into what the actual trades are that happened before the draft in the NBA, starting with the Boston Celtics, who have made some major moves in trading away Marcus Smart in a three-way trade with the Wizards and the Grizzlies, sending Marcus Smart to the Grizzlies for Kristaps Porzingis and getting back, I believe, the 23 and, 23rd pick in the 2023 draft and first round pick in the 2024 draft. So they got a haul for Kristaps Porzingis. What does this do for the Boston Celtics? This puts them in a better position than they were last season. And probably this puts them closer to a championship than we've ever seen them in the height of the Tatum, Jaylen Brown era for this team. Now, why do you say that when they made the finals in 2020, Jean-Luc? You know why? Because now they have size as well as floor spacing. The one thing about the Boston Celtics that I've been on for a number of years is two things. One, Marcus Smart. When we covered this at the start of this YouTube channel, and in the early days of this podcast, when they were in the finals, I had covered every game. One of my whole gripes with them was Marcus Smart as their point guard is not going to cut it because of the fact that he is a hot and cold player. As much as he can do on the defensive end, he will rip that whole progress in the game away with his own offensive ability. And because he can get hot at times, those times are very far and few between. And he's not a great three-point shooter, especially not in that series. And offensively, he makes some boneheaded plays that really makes you think, what the world, you've ruined all the momentum. And everything that he does on the defensive end gets ripped away on the offensive end. Now, one defensive player of the year, I believe, before this season, and then in this season, became a worse defender and a worse offensive player. When he won that Defensive Player of the Year award, that's probably would have been the time that they should have traded him off. But hey, they got him out before he fully started regressing, because he was regressing as a player. And they were able to get somebody like Kristaps Porzingis out. So now that they got Marcus Smart out the way, now you make room now you get rid of that so guard-heavy lineup that the Boston Celtics had. And now you can make room for Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon to be able to make do. Yes, we know Malcolm Brogdon is injured. If he's able to come back healthy, okay, now you have a more solid rotation of better offensive guards that can still play defensively, as well as now adding Kristaps Porzingis, who, mind you, last year nobody cared about the Wizards, but last year on the Wizards he was averaging 23 points on 35+% shooting from three, or around the high 30s from three-point range, as well as averaging 2 blocks a game. Again, nobody cared about the Wizards because they're the Wizards. And stuff just doesn't make sense on the Wizards because of the amount of moves that they made to make themselves a habitual, not poverty franchise, but a bad franchise that, in essence, they're never bad enough to get a high pick, but they're never good enough to really make any moves. And they're never going to be viable enough for any superstar to want to come to because they haven't built anything. They haven't built a thing out of their lineup, and they essentially overpaid Bradley Beal. Yes, overpaid is the right word. Overpaid Bradley Beal, put themselves in a position where they can't make any moves at all whatsoever. Stuck in purgatory is what the Wizards were and are currently. Maybe that changed with some of the trades I'm definitely talking about, but that's what the Wizards were. Now, able to get Kristaps Porzingis onto Boston Celtics. They got Tyus Jones. Again, the Wizards, doesn't matter. Getting Kristaps out of a Wizards uniform into the Boston Celtics makes the Boston Celtics now maybe the best built team in the Eastern Conference, usurping the Milwaukee Bucks, who, again, last year were my pick to win the championship. Yeah, I know we got knocked out in the first round. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'm still upset at that whole situation. Can't believe we lost. They lost to the Miami Heat when they were clearly better. My goodness. Yes, Giannis was injured, but still, it got me so hot. But then, regardless of which, surprised us all, but still the Bucks seemed like they were comprised to be the best built team in the Eastern Conference and one of the best built teams in the NBA. Now that moniker can arguably go to the Boston Celtics because, again, now they got rid of one of their guards. And, yeah, they may have lost defense, even though they were already losing defense with how Marcus Smart was degrading as a defender. But now they got rid of an offensive liability in Marcus Smart. And like I said, made room for people like Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon if he gets healthy to really be able to shine more. And now added more floor spacing in Kristaps Porzingis as well as height. Because now you can run a lineup of, in a perfect world, Derek White, who had a phenomenal postseason, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Kristaps Porzingis, and Robert Williams, with Al Horford coming off the bench. Or you can have Al Horford at power forward and Kristaps Porzingis at center. Either way. And if you want to go defensive, you can put that same lineup, but with Kristaps and Robert Williams at the 4 and 5 spot. And whether you can put Kristaps at the 5 and Robert Williams at the 4 because he's such a good defender in multiple aspects. I'm not saying he's a great perimeter defender, but he's good enough to where he can hold his own. He's athletic enough that he can catch up and recover. And then if he gets switched into the paint, well, he's Robert Williams. He was the Time Lord, Time Wizard. This brother just makes everything within the paint bend to his will. So this is a phenomenal pickup that helps diversify what the Boston Celtics can do with their lineup, as well as having an opportunity for them to be able to build even more come 2024, and gives them leeway to finally have the team necessary to take them over the hump and make them a championship winning squad, not just a championship contending squad. Because now you get Jaylen Brown, who's a 20-point per game scorer, Jason Tatum, who many argue is a top 10 player in the NBA right now, and then you add Kristaps Porzingis, who is a 20-plus per game scorer, because now he's fully evolved into the great player that he is now. Again, nobody cared about him on the Wizards, but he came into his own on the Wizards, and he already knows how to take on smaller roles on teams. And so he can do that now as a legitimate third option, a great third option, both in the paint or out on the perimeter. He can be a catch and shoot guy. He can be a post player. He can be a down low threat. He can be a lob threat. And he's deceptively quick for his size. And now with age with more maturity and age on him, he's gained more muscle. And now he's an even more imposing figure on both sides of the ball. This is a phenomenal pickup for the Boston Celtics, and this puts them out way up in terms of their ability to not just compete, but succeed in winning the East. And potentially having a shot at not only getting back to a championship, but winning the championship outright, because now the roster is fully equipped to have everything that you need. They have the defense, yes, but now they have less guard play, more big men, more versatile big men, and now have better floor spacing to surround Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown with Kristaps Porzingis as guaranteed going to be in that starting lineup. And now you have a lineup that has size, athleticism, youth, shooting, and defense. And you can run a multitude of ways with that old thing. You can run the pick and roll. You can run pick and pop. You can run, if you wanted to, you could even run 5 out periodically with that team. Because Al Horford is a good three-point shooter. He turned himself into a good three-point shooter. And Kristaps Porzingis is a great three-point shooter. At least off of last season. So now you become one of the most versatile and potentially one of the more dominant offensive lineups in the East, maybe even in the entire NBA. They are up there, coupled with bolstering your defensive ability and personnel and making you even more diverse in how you can make lineups. Yeah, this trade for the Celtics is phenomenal. And for the Grizzlies, this makes sense for Marcus Smart, because now you can have somebody that can keep Ja Morant in check. No, this doesn't make any moves to make them a better contending team. No, it doesn't. Absolutely no, it doesn't. Again, Tyus Jones was a phenomenal playmaker for the Grizzlies. And so I think they've lost some ability to on the offensive end because of what Tyus Jones could do in terms of making all the pieces go to work. Offensively, he was a true playmaker in the NBA, if you ever want to call somebody a pure point guard in the truest sense. Marcus Smart is not the type of player, but he is a defensive figure. And while he's degrading, he's still a great defensive player. And he can be a locker room leader. Something that, while I respect Steven Adams and I respect Jackson Jr., and I respect Desmond Bane, there's no real figure in that sense in that locker room. At least what we can tell now, especially with the actions of somebody like a Ja Morant, who right now got suspended 25 games. I'm definitely talking about that. But I'm definitely touch on that. If not in this episode, in another one. But now the Grizzlies have somebody that can hold accountability and root this team to be able to actually grow a strong trunk and branches. This is the start of getting a foundational piece that can help evolve your team into the next evolution of who they can be, which for the Grizzlies now is a potential finals contender. Because they can be a great team. Don't get me wrong. They're youthful. They're young. They have a lot of bodies that can do a multitude of different things. Absolutely. But they don't have a star and they don't have a locker room leader. Now, they got one, which is a locker room leader. All they need now is a star. Maybe that involves trading Desmond Bane for another legitimate talent. Not just a great player. As great as Desmond Bane is, he, in my opinion, is a great player. Not an all-star caliber player. Definitely not a superstar caliber player. Definitely not. That's not a knock on Desmond Bane. That's what his skill set entails. That's what his production entails. You can't win with Desmond Bane as your best number two. You can't win with Jaren Jackson Jr. as your best number two. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We saw what happened this postseason. It's not going to happen. But you get somebody that is a legitimate all-star to come to that Grizzlies squad with the heart and soul of a Marcus Smart, now rooting that team because he's had experience in the finals. He's had experience in the playoffs, extensive experience in the playoffs. He understands what it takes to win, and he understands the mentality that you have to take to be able to be not just a hype job, but a legitimate challenge for everybody in the league. Oh, yeah. This is the first step into making that team reach the heights that we as fans feel they can get to. This isn't the step, but it's one of the first steps into building a legitimately solid franchise that can compete for years to come. Will they improve after this? Time will tell. Who knows what's going to happen this offseason and in free agency? Stuff could, with the way it's already popped off, anything is possible at this point. Anything is possible. Shout out to KG. But this is a good first step. And especially it's a good first step in terms of keeping Ja Morant grounded and rooted to potentially having him not go off the rails like he's been doing. And not constantly jeopardizing his own playing career like he's been doing over the past couple months. And once you get your superstar set and grounded and committed to not only bettering themselves on the floor, but off the floor as well, now you have the makings of a team whose best player is completely focused and driven, devoid of distractions, that now you become dangerous. Now the whole team has a different makeup, a different look when your best player is where he needs to be both on the floor and off the floor. And that's what Marcus Smart can do for Ja Morant and for the entire Grizzlies organization. Not just on the defensive end, but in terms of within themselves, here, in their heart, in their mind. A veteran can do that. Especially a veteran that can still produce on the floor, which Marcus Smart can. And so with this new move for the Memphis Grizzlies, now you're looking at a team that this can be the start of something special. Can. Not will, but it can. Because they got the veteran, bolstered up the defense, coupled with Jaren Jackson Jr., got the youth. Now they just need to get Ja back where he needs to be and get one legitimate all-star to pair with Ja Morant. And we could be looking at a team that now they've arrived as threats to get to a title. Now they can make everybody else worry in the West, rather than them having to worry about being in the West. That's what could happen. And I hope that's what's happened with this trade. So that's what happened with Celtics and Grizzlies. Because my goodness, there's so much more to come. Like the Suns trading Chris Paul to the Wizards and Phoenix getting Bradley Beal. And then subsequently, Chris Paul getting traded afterwards to the Warriors. But let's break down the Suns first. Suns now get Bradley Beal on their roster. This, for them, is not good. No. This is not good for them. In fact, where's my sound? This is not good for the Suns. This is not good for the Suns at all. This is terrible for the Suns. You know why this is terrible for the Suns? For this being a trade? Because now this Suns squad has nowhere to go. There's nowhere for them to go. Okay, sure, they got rid of Chris Paul, who was declining as a player. And they got another great scorer and a slightly younger scorer in Bradley Beal, who was an all-star, probably got robbed of some all-star appearances over his career. But now, But the Suns they can't do anything to make this roster better. There's nothing they can do. You got Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Torrey Craig, Kevin Durant, and DeAndre Ayton. Or, if you don't want that lineup, Cameron Payne, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and DeAndre Ayton. Those are the two lineups you can do out of the roster that they have right now. And outside of that, there is nothing else they can do. There is nothing else they can do. They can't buy anybody. They can't sign anybody. And they can't trade for anybody without giving up one of the big substantial pieces. Mind you, the NBA salary cap is $134 million, upwards of 160, because of some other stuff within the CBA. Or in the NBA salary cap. Of course, you can look it up, read it, and all that stuff for yourself. Absolutely, you should, because it affects a lot of teams today, this year, and for years to come. But there is, at minimum, it's $134 million for the NBA salary cap. Booker, Beal, and KD alone take up $131 million. That's not even mentioning how DeAndre Ayton hasn't gotten paid yet. Those three, the trio of Booker, Beal, and KD, take up $131 million. They got maybe $3 million to play with, and that's it. That is it. The only thing they can do is trade DeAndre Ayton, who seemingly for the past couple of years I've been seeing doesn't want to be there in Phoenix. Has had gripes in Phoenix for multiple years. And so, yeah, okay, he wants out, fine. Trade him away. That's great. The problem is his trade value has gone down ever since the finals when they faced off against the Bucks, I believe in 2019. His trade value has gone down ever since 2019. Because now he's not seen as a dominant rim protector, has not gotten near the level of mid-range maestro that he was in that postseason run. Has declined offensively. Isn't, even for as big as he is, isn't a great rebounder, at least to the caliber that you see, or that I feel he should be as a player. And so now, and he's looking to get a bag. So what team is going to want to take somebody on like that who, for lack of a better term, that's about all you're going to be able to get? Because they ain't got a whole bunch else to give outside of Ayton. So trying to get 3 or 4 players for Ayton, it's a bad situation for the Suns. It's bad. Yes, he'll get some value. But in terms of to bolster out the rest of that lineup, who's, again, the best player right now, if you wanted the best player to come off the bench that you could, it would be Cameron Payne. Because I doubt that you're going to have Bradley Beal coming out not playing in a certain lineup. I doubt that. I really doubt that. And respect to Cameron Payne, but he ain't going to be able to do nothing with that lineup that they got off the bench right now. No. Absolutely not. This Suns roster is not built to win anything. It's just like what happened with the Brooklyn Nets when they got KD, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. Now, yes, I understand that injuries and stuff, vaccines and stuff, all that stuff messed up with what that team could have been. And offensively, they were one of the best teams we had ever seen in NBA history. I understand that. However, on the other side of the ball, they had nothing. Both defensively and in terms of depth, they didn't have anything, at least at that point in time. And because he didn't have anything, you're so top heavy, you can't actively produce and perform in postseason and late, and when you're trying to make a deep run in the playoffs. Because of the fact that now you're just getting outworked because other teams have multiple different bodies that they can throw at you and have multiple different looks that can take the toll of tougher defense, more physical play, and being more adaptable as a whole team. That's what they ran into in Brooklyn, and that's what the Suns are running into right now, with the fact that they don't have anywhere else to go outside of their starting five. There's no other person they can put into and say, okay, hey, we need you to take out some minutes. If you take out anybody, the production dips severely. And it's all isolation. Say what you want about Chris Paul being, washed, or at least degrading and being injury prone, which he is. But he was a phenomenal playmaker. Now that he's gone, Devin Booker has improved drastically as a playmaker, absolutely. No doubt, from playing with Chris Paul and understanding better how to be able to facilitate. I get that. Devin Booker as a playmaker is not going to be what's going to take this team to the NBA Finals. It's just not. His best attribute is being strictly a scorer. Not trying to put him in a box. I'm saying that box is the best thing for him. That's what I'm saying. And because that's the case, trying to make him now the sole playmaker for this team can be it can be a problem. It can be an absolute problem for the Suns. But that's just a lot more responsibility on a very constricted lineup that that is, let's face it, is going to affect them in the playoffs severely. It's going to affect them in the playoffs severely. Not to mention that with the lack of depth, if one person gets hurt, their chances are shot. If anybody gets hurt, if Devin Booker gets hurt, done. KD gets injured, done. Bradley Beal injured, done. Even if DeAndre Ayton gets injured, done, because they have nobody else in the paint. There is nobody that they have as a great center, as a good center, as an average center on that team right now. Not one. Not one. Anybody gets injured on this team in the starting five, they are done. Done. No shot whatsoever, with as little shot as they have. Last season, absolutely, they should have achieved a lot more than they did. Absolutely. They were built better. This season, no, they're not. Especially with the moves that they just made. They went all in for what? For what? For what? I understand that Chris Paul doesn't have nearly the height of a trade value that he used to have. I get that. To take on somebody with such a hefty contract, with no other way to build anything else around the big three, it makes no sense at all. None whatsoever. And it hurts this team's chances of actually getting past where they've been and actively getting a shot at a title. And it's painful because Kevin Durant now again gets to a position where he should be able to succeed. He has the names around him, but it's not going to amount to anything. It's not. For whatever term, for whatever means, it's just not. Ever since he left the Warriors, it's either been injury or underproduction. Injury, outside influences affecting what the team actually is, and or just straight up underperforming. Straight up underperforming. And most of the time, it's been the latter two outside of the former. It's been the outside stuff and injuries more than anything. And now, yeah, the injury might not be a concern or as big of a concern for this team, but there's nothing else for this team. Nothing at all. There's nothing else they can do on this squad. unless you want to have two of your four players playing the entire game. And can their bodies take that wear and tear? It's hard. It is hard. Jokic made it look easy, playing 48 minutes, literally playing entire games, just because. Regular season, postseason, and in the finals. Didn't sit down for maybe more than a minute. Averaging 40-plus minutes every single game. That's not easy. And on this team, it's going to be required. And the Nuggets have way more depth than what the Suns have. I don't know where the Suns go from here. I really don't. This is a bad move for the Suns. They have nowhere to go. This offensively is going to be a show. But that's it. Just a show. That's not going to amount to anything. Because they don't have anybody to help lighten the load and be able to, when it comes time for postseason, actively be able to put out lineups that can fit whoever they're going up against. They just don't. You need stops. You can't make a lineup with this team. You need size. You can't make a lineup with this team. You just can't. Defense, you can't make a lineup with this team. You cannot. Shooting, absolutely. Scoring, okay, fine. They can run with the best of them. But even still, it's just a no. You need cutters where you got the starting five. That's it. You need a playmaker where you got Beal. That's it. Or excuse me, you got Booker. That's it. There's nothing else really that you can do with this Suns lineup as it's currently constructed that can make them a good team. When it comes time for the postseason, when it comes time to be able to compete against other great squads, once stuff gets down to the nitty gritty, once grit and grind starts taking place, once the pace of play starts slowing down, and when stops matter, they can't do anything. This is a horrible trade for them because they have nowhere else to go. Nowhere else to go. I hate it. I hate the fact that they did this. They did not prove. They may, in fact, have taken a step back. The Suns may have, in fact, taken a step back in their team as a whole. Because now they can't make any moves unless they trade away Ayton. And even with Ayton, I don't think they're going to be able to get as much as they think they're going to get to fill out the roster that they need, especially what they're going to have to ask for, as well as if anybody gets hurt on this team, like I've been saying before, they are done. They're done. They can't. They're stuck. They're stuck for multiple years with contracts that only get bigger as time goes on. And they ain't got no money to play with, and they don't have the players that they would need to trade, don't have the value enough to fill out the roster like they need to. And so it's all bad for the Suns right now. Speaking of which, oh, by the way, Chris Paul also got traded from the Wizards, and now he's a Golden State Warrior. In another shock twist, in another shock turn, now we got a situation where the Warriors seemingly got another piece. Somehow, when everything seems like it's falling off the rails, they somehow be able to make moves to make something happen. However, they made something happen in trading away for Chris Paul, getting rid of Jordan Poole, sending Jordan Poole to the Wizards for the 2030 first round pick and 2027 second round pick. Got rid of, again, Mr. Hit-a-Lot. The pool party is over. The pool party is over. The pool party is done. The successor to Steph Curry has now left the building, is now on the Wizards where he can cook as much as he wants, shoot as much as he wants. And Chris Paul is now Golden State Warrior. Two people that at one point in time were in the conversation for who's the best point guard in the world with Steph Curry winning that conversation with his multiple MVPs. And now they're playing with each other. Two of the best point guards of a generation are now playing alongside each other. Phenomenal, you would think. But in actuality, no, it's not great. We can talk about the good, sure. Let's talk about how now you don't have a shot chucker like Jordan Poole, who after he got paid $130-something million in the contract that he signed last season, he then turned into a bum. Terrible offensive decisions, nowhere near the spark plug that he was, that got him the contract in the first place. All the stuff that he was doing that made it seem like, oh my gosh, he's phenomenal. He's exactly what we need as a second unit. He's essentially a second unit Steph. Now, boom, he's a shot chucker. The buzz is making Steph so angry, he's throwing mouthpieces and getting kicked out of the game. He's making horrible decisions. He's taking inopportune shots. He's like what we were talking about with Russell Westbrook on the Lakers, who kept taking ill-advised shots, stupid shots, shots in traffic for no reason whatsoever. That's what Westbrook was doing, and that's what Jordan Poole was doing. And it was not helping the team. And it was such a defensive liability, it was laughable. Laughable. Fouling for no reason. This is one of the bigger fouling for no reason, letting people glide by. One of the biggest reasons why they lost against the Lakers. He could not reproduce what he did in 2020 and just fell off a cliff as a player. Turned into what J.R. Smith was in the latter part of his career, which was bad. This is great, coupled with the fact that he is now on a team devoid of Draymond Green, who, because of the whole punch with him between Draymond and Poole, caused a whole bunch of dissension within the organization, and the team was never the same. It wasn't the same. After that punch in the offseason, it was never the same. You can see it. It was the team as a whole was just not the same. The vibe, what the Warriors normally are, was completely different. Was completely different from what it normally is. Absolutely a complete whirlwind from what they were the year they won the championship. So now you get those two separated, clean slate, all that stuff. Seems like it's great, but now you get Chris Paul, and you fill a void, but you also make a bigger void. You fill a hole while making a bigger hole. You throw sand. You're essentially putting a brick on top of a building to help plug up a damaged spot in the wall while making that wall heavier and causing more cracks around the subsequently connected walls. Getting Chris Paul fills the void of a second unit leader in Jordan Poole, a better leader than Jordan Poole, absolutely. But now you've gotten smaller as a team. You have maximized the one weakness in your game as a team that you were trying to minimize, which was size, which is one of the reasons you got bullied by the Lakers. And why they could do whatever they wanted with you. Because you didn't have any size to combat that. And now you go even shorter with Chris Paul. Instead of getting a center, instead of getting somebody that's 6'10", 6'11", to pair alongside Kevin Looney, regardless of the reports of what Jonathan Kuminga has become as a player, growing to 7'2" or whatever, that is yet to be seen. I've yet to see proof of that. I need to see that, to whether that's the case or not. But regardless of which, the biggest thing that you needed was size, because you absolutely got destroyed by bigger teams. James Wiseman didn't work out. You traded him to the Pistons. or you waved into the Pistons. Well, first you got into the G League, then he went to the Pistons. Kevon Looney, as much as I didn't like him, is the one player on your team that is actually a good big body because he gets boards and gets blocks, and that's it. That's it. No offensive talent whatsoever, but he will get boards and get blocks. And to that degree, it's great. Plays his role and plays it phenomenally, especially this last postseason, as he was the only guy that the Warriors could rely on to actively beat something of an interior presence. Because Draymond Green isn't like that no more. He's not. He is nowhere near the defensive force that he was when he was winning Defensive Player of the Year and during the Warriors' reign as the NBA champs and NBA best running the league. He's nowhere close to that anymore. Nowhere close. He still is the heart and soul of that team. Yes, don't get me wrong. He still is one of the biggest reasons why offensively they're able to run so fluidly. No doubt about it. But that doesn't negate the fact that his best talent, which was defense, is now no longer a big, valid plus on his mark or on his part. It's not that impactful anymore defensively. And because of that, you need size to help mitigate Draymond Green's degrading defensive prowess and as well as his age overall, which is affecting his ability to perform at what he used to be. And you didn't. You got smarter, but you didn't get bigger in getting Chris Paul. And that's not going to help. Coupled with the fact that Chris Paul is 38 years old. Chris Paul is incredibly injury prone at this stage in his career. And he's perfect for the second unit. He can even lead the first unit as a playmaker. If Steph goes down or if he needs rest off the bench, yes, they can interchange. No doubt about it. But with that being said, it's still a problem because is he even going to be available for that to happen? Because it's not Chris Paul's fault, but every single time Chris Paul's gotten into the postseason, he's gotten hurt in some way, shape, or form. Every time. Every year for the past 5 years. Since the Rockets. He's gotten injured at some point in time. For some reason or another, he's hurt. And yes, it won't take as big of an effect because of the fact that now he's the second unit leader. But it will take effect because if he goes down, at least with Jordan Poole, he was at least healthy. You could count on him not getting injured. And if he performs well, oh great. But if not, he'll at least be there. And the best ability is availability. We know this. And Chris Paul, when it comes down to it, may not be available. So even what little he does add, and I don't say that in a negative sense, I'm saying relative to what the team actually needed, what little he adds on to for the Warriors offensively, he gives up defensively because now he's nowhere near the defender that he used to be. He's a better defender than Jordan Poole, but now he's not as good as he used to be on defense, and coupled with him being older and, again, only 6 feet tall, it can be a problem going up against other lineups that can expose him. And the fact that he's injury prone, what little he may be able to give to the Warriors may be, in fact, null and void or non-existent because of either the lack of defensive ability or being injured and not being on the floor at all. This move by the Warriors makes no sense because there's multiple other sixth men that they could have gotten that could have fit better for the Warriors. why is it that they went out of Chris Paul? I mean, I get why, but I also don't get why. Because he's the best available, and pairing up the two best point guards of a generation when both can still perform at an MVP level like he's been doing, is Steph Curry, and the other at least a good level. And when he's on at a great level in Chris Paul, I get it. But in terms of fit for the team, it doesn't make any sense. Coupled with the fact that Chris Paul isn't really an off-ball type player. And with the type of offense that the Warriors run, is he going to be really effective? In his own right, playmaking, I'm not saying. I'm talking about offensively when he needs to score and when he needs to make a move. He's not really a mover off the ball. So how much is he going to be able to buy into what the Warriors do offensively when he doesn't have the ball in his hand? Which on the second unit most likely won't happen, but on the first unit, if he gets paired up with Steph Curry, what's he going to be able to do? Or, excuse me, when he gets paired without Steph Curry, and now let's say it's him and Clay that need to make the offense work. How is it that he's going to make that work when he's not moving off the ball like the Warriors want to do, and like what makes them so hard to guard? Because it might be a stark juxtaposition between the way the two styles between team and player play, with how Chris Paul likes to play versus how the Warriors like to play. May not be as smooth of a fit as we all may think. There's a lot of questions that come into play with this Warriors squad. And while the move plugged up one hole, it made a bigger one. And I don't think this is good for the Warriors. I really don't. Unless they're able to make moves and get people in the offseason, which I don't know if they can because of the fact that they, just like the Suns to a lesser degree, are wrapped up in contracts. Steph's getting paid a bunch. Clay's getting paid a bunch or looking to get paid a bunch. So there's not a whole bunch of moves that they can make if they want to keep the core together. This is a situation where they might be stuck just like with the Suns. And they could be right back where they were when they were struggling, or right back where they were last season, this postseason, when they were struggling against bigger, stronger teams and couldn't stop anybody. The only thing is that very issue has gotten exacerbated now that you have Chris Paul. This is going to be very interesting because now people like the Lakers and the Nuggets seemingly look poised to, well, the Nuggets look like they're poised to be on top for a long time. And the Lakers seemingly took the abysmal roster with Westbrook last year and turned it into a legitimate finals contending team by the midway point in the season. And now they keep everybody with a full offseason to be able to play with each other. Look like they could be a real threat in the West. And people like the Suns and the Warriors have now made their teams worse by signing, on paper, big names. Notable names. This is, my goodness. This is, shoot. You want to talk about a crazy NBA season that's getting ready to happen? It's a crazy NBA season that's getting ready to happen. And I am here for it all. But this has been another episode of The World Report. I'm so happy to be with you today, talking about the world of sports. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Like we always do, leave a like on the video, comment your thoughts and opinions, subscribe to the channel, and share the podcast to everybody that you know. Please do. Liking the video helps the algorithm, helps us get up in arms with other people to see the show, and helps us out a lot, and also just supports the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening. This has been The World Report. I've been your Jean-Luc Welch. Peace and love. We are out. out of here.